You know, I was talking to Mike off the air before you came on, and we were talking about if you had to prosecute this case, right? And after opening statements, so the opening statements are done, where do you start, Bobby? Where would you exactly start?
I mean, that's an interesting. You know, there's different schools of thought with the prosecutors I work with. Sometimes they like to tell a sequential narrative story chronologically. So, you know, you start basically a timeline. Some prosecutors like to put their strongest evidence in first to get the jury going. Boom. So, like you get the defense back on its heels. You know, you put your strongest piece of evidence in first, and then some prosecutors like to wait until the end to use their strongest evidence. So it really depends on your prosecutorial theory and you talk about that with your team, with your investigators, your detectives, with your other prosecutors who are going to second seat you on it. And so I think you discuss that and you say, how are we going to tell the jury the story, so it makes sense to them and we get them, the strongest evidence that really makes an impact on them. So it would depend on all of those things. And I wasn't privy to, like, you basically put it up on this huge whiteboard in your war room as you prep for trial, and you say, this is how we're going to approach it. But, I mean, obviously in movies and TV, usually they do the chronological. They start from the beginning and they go through a timeline of what happened. That's not always the way you don't have to do it that way. But that's usually the way they do it.
Mike, your thoughts?
Yeah, Bill, I'm agreeing with Bobby a lot. I'm always thinking, well, you start off with a 911 call. That's how in the NYPD, the cases I was on, you start the 911 call. Who are you? 4-6 Sector Adam, police officer Mike Geary. We went to 183rd Street and Crescent Avenue, call of shots fired, whatever it happened to be. And you just do it that way. But after talking with you, Billy, and looking at everything over, I think, and actually even looking at this report that you put up there, I think it's really good to start off with his phone activity. Get an expert, not like Dylan Mortensen up there and having her be traumatized, being the first person that the jury sees, but having a calm, cool, collected veteran person talking about the cell phone data, about his habits, and then talking about what does the cell phone data give us before and during that day. Why was the cell phone turned off? How was it turned off? How was it turned back on? And how different that is from other days in his life. And then I would do the Elantra video, because this way you're getting a lot of that technical stuff in. You do the Elantra video, watching it go around in circles in the neighborhood and tear assing out of there at exactly 4:20 or something like that in the morning.
4:48.
Oh, 4:48.
That's when the car, that's when he turned his cell phone back on. I'm sorry.
That's right. And then I would go, then I would do Dylan Mortensen and the 911 call, and then I'd have the cops testify about what they saw. And then I would hit him with the DNA. And so I think that would make, in my point of view, if I could set this case up as an assistant to the district attorney, if I was second seating him, that's what I would suggest.
I know I'm just a lowly police sergeant without a law degree like you two guys. So, but I also have an opinion on this, and I think that if you went to the sledgehammer, which was the DNA on the button of the knife sheath, and the jury's not impressed with it, you have nowhere to go. And I think of the Force Compendium. Remember that, Bobby? Mm-hmm. Where if you started with too much force, where are you going to go after that if it didn't work? Right. So you start out speaking very softly, and then you get a little louder, and then you build it up. Same thing with this. As I said, if you go to the sledgehammer, you go to the bazooka, and it doesn't work. Now where are you going to go? And you have so much.
Yeah, and there's also the thought that, like, the knife sheath, that's going to be kind of debated. The defense is going to have their experts come in. So it's nice to kind of start building your story and your narrative with evidence that can't be really challenged. That's dry. It may seem boring, but it's going to set that strong foundation that the defense isn't really going to be able to challenge. It's scientific. When like I was a juror on a 5.5-month murder trial, as I've said before here, and a lot of that, in fact, weeks, maybe 3 or 4 weeks of that, were people from Cellbrite, people from the FBI's computer response team coming in the court look, as an FBI agent juror, it was very odd watching another FBI agent testify, and I have to kind of judge his ability as a witness. But a lot of it was testimony on cell phones. I came in I'm like you guys. When I came in the FBI, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have pagers, and so I'm not really up on a lot of that stuff. I would come home after a day of testimony on all these experts, and my head would be spinning. But I learned a lot about what they can do with cell phones and texts, and when something's deleted and how it can be brought back and things like that. And so I think you put the stuff that really isn't going to be challenged so much, and then the jury already has kind of a certain like little hill that they're standing on of evidence that's not really challengeable, that on cross the defense really doesn't make a whole lot of points. And so now the jury's like on your side because you've got an amount, and then you start introducing the evidence that might be more challenged by the defense. So you get that little bit of a foundation laid where the defense really can't touch your experts just because of the nature of the evidence. And so you get that information in without it really being too damaged on cross. And then the jury is already on your side. And then you're just giving them more and more and more.
Very cool. Folks, FanDuel is now a advertiser, a sponsor of the Police Off the Cuff podcast on the Believe Network. FanDuel, an American gambling company, offers sportsbook, daily fantasy sports, horse racing, and online casino services. Founded in Edinburgh, Scotland in 2009, it began as the news prediction site HubDub before transitioning to its current services. FanDuel is partnered with the NFL, NBA, WNBA, Major League Baseball, NHL, and PGA Tour, and operates FanDuel Racing and FanDuel Face Off. I'll learn how to talk one of these days. Anyway, FanDuel, the new sponsor of Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories. It's I want to actually play